I love when we log on and everyone's thumbs up from the video explodes on our screen.
Oh, let's read the comments here. Hi, everybody. Hi, it's so nice everyone's waiting for us. Thanks for waiting, guys. So we have encountered some technical difficulties and location difficulties. We are definitely not where we prefer to record. We're not at Stand Up New York. They had some difficulty with their internet, so we couldn't record there or go live. So we're at a friend's place, and we're using a cell phone camera.
So this is I just want to paint you all a picture, especially for our podcast listeners who are listening to this later. And first of all, if you're here, thank you so much for joining us live.
Thanks
if you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. Make sure that you click the thumbs up button on the video. This is actually my mom's apartment. Luckily, she happens to live pretty close to Stand Up New York, and thank goodness she's not even here. Her landlord let us in. We had to set up the camera on a stool, and we have my cell phone flashlight as our lighting, this is like more DIY than when we first started this show.
Oh yeah, no, this is not nearly as professional as our old living room setup with the sheet in the background and everything else. This is, we're just winging it.
Yeah, so thank you for bearing with us, and that is also why we were 10 minutes late starting.
Yep.
And for those of you not here live or listening to the podcast, you probably don't care about any of that, but that's okay. We like to give you context. So all of that being said, my notes, because I can't look at my phone, are going to be on the computer. So if you're here with us and you notice me looking down at the computer, that is for either your comments or my notes on the show.
Yeah, I think that's all it.
Any announcements or anything?
I don't think so. I don't know. So we're recapping episodes 6 and 7.
Correct.
Because
of the random
Wednesday culling episode, I guess we'll call it.
Beth, thank you. Beth in the chat says, I'm sure that this will be more enjoyable than the episode was. And Jin says that he agrees. Yeah. Hallie seconds that. Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, technical difficulties abundant today.
All of them. Yeah. But we're here. We're here.
And it's like 45 degrees and drizzling in New York, and that's the worst weather. It just sucks because you can't go outside without getting wet, but you don't want to wear a winter jacket because it's not cold. It's a whole thing.
This is, yeah. So that's the sitch. Thank you all so much for your messages, for your tags on Instagram, for your podcast reviews, for your comments on YouTube. Every time you do something like that, somebody else finds this show. And it is the coolest thing for us to hear, oh yeah, I saw so-and-so post about it, and then I started listening to it because they left a review or they left a comment. So thank you all so much for doing that. Also, the outpouring of love for our guest Amanda last week was gigantic. So thank you for supporting her.
Indeed.
All right, you ready to go? I'm so ready to dive into this.
Yeah, it's going to be something else, these 2 episodes. So
Episode 6 starts off. So this was the Wednesday episode we'll start with. Wednesday of last week. And we are in Santiago, Chile, and there are 10 women left at this point. It was kind of hilarious at the beginning. They run into the hotel and, they do the classic, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I noticed it was a Renaissance Inn, which I've stayed at them, they're fine hotels, but in no way are they Scream worthy.
Yeah, it's the same thing they do whenever they travel. They go somewhere, they stand on the balcony, they shout Peter's name.
Yeah, but the one in Costa Rica was freaking beautiful. Yeah. I was like, let's go there.
Well, the same thing happened with Peter's hotel room, wherever he was. He walked in, he's like, this is amazing. I'm like,
that was the same
hotel. A regular hotel room.
I was like, is that a Holiday Inn?
Doesn't look bad.
Yeah, but it's fine.
I wouldn't freak out about it.
It was
anyway.
He says that he hopes that the drama is gone. And we get this really cool narrator. It was not. The girls are out to brunch together. And this is something that they've really only started doing in the past couple seasons, where the contestants are out in the wild exploring.
I think it's the first time, on Becca's season, the guys were out. I think it was the first time I saw it. I think
maybe. I don't even remember it back then. I remember Hannah's season doing it.
Yep.
But it's definitely a newer thing. And Peter kind of walks up, and they're like, "Oh, And he asks Hannah Ann out on the one-on-one date. And
hold on. Oh. We're jumping ahead a little. There's some conversation at the girls' drinks. Which is obviously like a facilitated thing. They're all drinking identical cocktails, identical glasses. Like, I always laugh. Like, they just brought over like a complimentary round of whatevers. Like, they're not really out day drinking together. Anyway, they are actively drinking during the daytime, and
it wasn't like pretend.
Well, yeah, fair enough. So
they weren't ever there.
Two things that I noticed during this girl talk time play later in the show, which is why I want to focus on them so heavily right now. One, Tammy starts off the dialogue. Oh my god, Tammy was
still there at this point.
Spoilers.
Everyone has seen it if they're listening to this.
So, Tammy starts the conversation off by saying, it's time to leave everything in the past, move on from the drama, and to focus on their relationships with Peter.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, Tammy. That's a great thing to say. I wish she had followed through on these decisions, or statements, rather. And then, Victoria F. decides to...
Oh, no, then McKenna, before she does that, McKenna makes a comment about how hard last week was.
Yeah.
And she tears up and talks about how challenging it's been. And Victoria F. at the table, I guess we could just call her Victoria now because the other one's gone. Victoria confronts her at the table, and then in her ITM does a horrible, rude, mean girl impression of McKenna.
Well, at the table... She basically tells McKenna to...
Yes, Hallie, this was the mini cocktail party combo.
Yeah. She basically tells... because in the previous episode, McKenna had pulled Peter aside during the rose ceremony after Tamia did it, and they got a minute to talk to him, and the other ladies think that influenced his decisions. Who's to say? He didn't really mention whether or not it did. So Victoria warns McKenna with a opinion, and I know that sounds confusing because it's the words she used, which are confusing. She says, don't ever do it again, and that's my opinion.
Yeah, don't let it happen. The quote is, don't let it happen again, and that's just my own opinion.
What the fuck does that mean? Anyway, so there's that, and then we get the in-the-moment interview of her mocking McKenna's voice for being the way it sounds, and then calling her weepy and how sad it is that she's crying all the time, and...
This was so not cool.
It's not cool to, I think, make fun of the way other people appear or sound or anything like that. However, the issue here that I have is that Victoria has cried every time she's with Peter and will continue to as this episode goes on. So she's just doing the thing where she makes fun of people for things that she does, which seems to be the theme of this season. A lot of the ladies have been throwing shade for things they do.
What I really dislike about Victoria's showing on the show, and again, asterisk, we know that there is editing, we know that there's production. This is
tons of it.
Everything that we say is with that acknowledgement. But if you're new here, just to kind of caveat that at the beginning, what I really, really don't like about how she has shown up on the show is that on her dates with Peter, before she goes into manipulating him and emotionally abusing him, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
She plays this I'm scared. I'm so nervous. I'm uncomfortable. And then we see twice, I can think of, once with Alea and once with McKenna, where she is fucking daggers coming out of her eyes.
Well, she shouted at both of them at various times throughout the show. We've seen a few cuts of her going directly to both of those ladies and confronting her in a really direct and aggressive way.
That's what I mean. Is there's nothing wrong with being direct, with being assertive. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's mean. You see the shift in her eyes. Her eyes are gorgeous. Let's acknowledge Victoria is a beautiful being. It's really hard to find her attractive when she is behaving this way. Yeah. But physically speaking, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Her eyes go from this, really lovely, la da la to ah! And it was just...
It's a good reminder that beautiful people can also be terrible, and just because they are beautiful, we shouldn't pay attention to what they're saying in life.
We shouldn't pay attention?
just because they're beautiful. Like, that's not the only validation. That's what I'm saying, is that beautiful people can also be terrible people.
That means that we need to pay attention. Like, we should pay attention to what they're saying.
Well, yeah, but not give it extra value or anything like that because they're beautiful.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Don't worship celebrities because they're beautiful. That's
right. So that's when Peter walks up, which I had totally skipped ahead. Thank you for that. And I had totally thought at this point, I don't know if you all did, let me know. I had thought that Hannah Ann had a one-on-one. When he pulls her, I was like, oh, it's their second one-on-one. And I happened to say it out loud, and Kyle was like, no, she has not gone on one.
Nope.
And I think it's just because their connection has been edited in a way that, like, she's just clearly been a front runner the whole time. So,
well, she's won a bunch of group dates, too.
Same
with Madison. We haven't seen a lot of their time. And obviously, he had the one-on-one with Madison right away, but both Madison and Hannah Ann have won, I think, several group dates.
So Shanice in our YouTube comments makes a really good point. She says Natasha does direct pretty well. She doesn't attack anyone. She just tells it like it is in a classy way. I agree. There are definitely moments with Natasha where I'm like, oh, but also, like, she's on the show. So,
yeah.
But I completely agree. She does direct so much better.
Yeah.
She's nice.
Yeah.
So he pulls Hannah Ann, and their date is exploring Santiago, which are my favorite dates.
Except that it has one of my least favorite bits of the Bachelor franchise, in which the two people in the one-on-one will talk to just some strangers on the street about what love is and what that means. We have no understanding of who these people are. There's no reason to, like, validate what their teachings are. Like, I don't know who.
Well, it's a couple that's been together for a long time.
Okay.
So they know about love.
Duration of relationship has nothing to do with quality.
Apparently it does, according to The Bachelor.
I like the voice you put on for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right, so they get some advice from strangers about love.
Hannah makes a really funny joke. This was actually the first time that I had heard Hannah make a joke that I laughed at. I have some trouble relating on a personal level to Hannah Ann, just because, like, first of all, she is stunning. Like, her face looks like a porcelain doll came to life. Like, her eyes are striking. She's just beautiful.
Yeah.
She's also 23. She's a model. So on a personal level, like, I don't feel that I have a lot in common with her. But she made a joke in an ITM that I was like, I would totally say that. And what she said was, this is what I've been dreaming of for, the past 6 weeks. And it was really funny. Self-aware. It was super self-aware and hilarious, and I liked it.
Yeah, so we get a kind of a supercut of them walking around the city, doing stuff. They cuddle on a statue, which is what you do on The Bachelor. You just cuddle on things.
Wait, you don't want to cuddle on statues when we travel?
I mean, I guess I could, but it's not like where I also decide to have a serious conversation about our relationship and love while
about being in love.
Statue cuddling. Well, maybe after I get some good advice from strangers, I would be able to pull that off. Anyway.
They would empower you to do that.
God, it hurts. Okay. So they talk about their relationships in the past and kind of their past relationship experiences. And she is 23, so there is less life experience that she has had than Peter's had, who, how do you remember how old
28.
he is? He's 28. So, I mean, those 5 years are significant. Like, I remember the 5 years from 23 to 28 for me were drastically life-altering. And
not to say that someone at 23 can't be, quote-unquote, ready for marriage or a long-term relationship. I know when I was 23, I had a lot more relationship experience than you had. Like, I had already been in, like, 5 serious relationships, and you were, like just starting to date after 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Peter's concerned that she hasn't been in love before based off of her relationship experience, and so she won't really know what that feels like or how to... This is problematic for me because just because you may not have been in love in a relationship before doesn't necessarily mean much for the future because you can fall into it. However, on a show in which it's a competition and you're trying to gauge who's a better match for you, I do find validity in this line of questions because it's important that someone has experienced, I think, this level of, emotional connection or is able to navigate that level of emotional connection when it gets there. What do you think?
So, yes, I agree with you that within the context of the show that I understand why Peter would be concerned.
Yeah.
My issue around this actually has nothing to do with Hannah Ann or Peter or The Bachelor. It's actually our entire society's concept of love.
Oh, yeah.
And this idea that we just kind of fall into it. Right? Like, even the expression...
like, it happens to you.
Right.
Whether or not you're able to...
Well, no. I do think that feelings happen without you control... Which you do, too.
Right. I'm just responding to what you're saying.
Okay, but that's not what I'm saying. So, like, I do think that feelings can happen. Mm-hmm. Like, all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, I want to be with this person. What I don't like is this. She says, what was the quote? I wrote it down. I've felt love before, but I've never been in love. And then she says she wants to save being in love for her person. The issue that I have with this, again, not with her. Yeah. It's how our culture views it. To me, love is a verb. Love is something that we do. It's also a feeling, and it's full of affection and care. And it's love is almost like this culmination of a lot of different feelings and emotions. And so this idea that, like, we would save one type of love for one person in your whole entire lifetime, which, again, is like a very idealistic... I grew up with this idea with watching Disney princess movies. Like, it's not about her. I just think that as a culture, it's really placing this, like, passive look at love instead of being very present in it and saying, I love this person, so I'm going to show them that I love them.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
And it also plays into the whole... I liked one thing I didn't like another thing about this. I like that she says, I've felt love, but I haven't been in love. That's a pretty aware statement. Like, I can relate to that. That is understandable to me, and I think it's a pretty mature way of looking at it. However, I'm saving, like, that love for one person, that's just like this weird puritanical concept around virginity, and we're going to talk about that later on, too. It's still that
not saying that being a virgin is weird. That's not at all. Just...
No. It's the... Right. It's the idea that one person is going to have this ever, and then that's it. And no matter what happens, that is it. You're closed off for the rest of your life around that. And it's just very... It puts so much pressure on it. Yeah. Like, so much pressure. I'm trying to make a diamond out of your feelings. You're going to make so much pressure. It's adding pressure to something that's already heavy in pressure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Hallie in the comments here says, I hated seeing people on Twitter and Instagram saying that she was lying about being in love because she was in a 3-year relationship sometime before this. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Especially at younger ages, how many of us can look back, and I would love to hear in the comments if anybody else identifies with this, how many of us can look back and say, wow, I thought that I was in love with that person. Looking back with hindsight, I was not.
Yeah.
Or you're in it and you're like, well, I love this person and I care about them. And then you get out of the relationship, meet somebody else, and you're like, oh, that was a different kind of love. Yeah. I'm experiencing something different. Like, you can be in a relationship for 3 years and then come out of it and be like, I was not in love with that person. Mm-hmm. Also, she's only 23. So, like, 3 years, that could have been 18, 19, 20, 19, 20, 21. Like, these are really developmental ages.
Yeah.
Have any of you experienced that before? And podcast listeners, let us know by tagging us and or DMing us on Instagram.
Yeah. So Peter seems a little, not off-put, but he's hesitant around that.
He's so fucking scared.
Well, and at this point, he's basically had his deepest fears constantly poked at, which is someone's lying to him about why they're there on the show, and he, at the end of it, will pick somebody who doesn't actually want to be with him because he literally watched that happen on the season that he was a contestant on to Hannah Brown. Jed was there the entire time, lying his ass off, and then at the end, Hannah went off with Jed instead of Peter or Tyler, and he had been lying the entire time. So he is deathly afraid of that, and he's had that poked at almost every episode. Someone has said something that has brought this fear to the forefront of his brain. So I get that he's hesitant.
Yeah, so...
Dinner time of the date. She wears a very wedding-y dress, is what I wrote.
Yeah, she did.
It was strange.
I did want to point out, on this evening point of the date, he asks her what her goals are. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is career-wise, family-wise. And I loved this moment. Yep. Loved this moment because he was very in the moment and conversational, and the career part came out before the family.
Yeah, that was nice.
Instead of this, like, well, you're the woman, so, like, what are your family goals?
You're the woman. What do you want to do after we have kids?
Yeah, like, exactly.
It's the assumption that's in there.
So I loved this from Peter. It was great.
Yeah, it's very indicative of who he is as a person and as a future partner, too. And I... so I think she kind of struggles a little bit on this. She locks up and gets really nervous and gets in her head.
It reminded me a lot of Hannah Brown on Colton season.
100%. She starts off great, in my opinion. She says, I want to model as long as I can, but I don't consider it a job. To me, I'm like broadening myself. That's more or less what she said. Paraphrasing slightly on that last part.
Which is really interesting.
Absolutely, and I kind of like that because people assume that's all she is. She's a model. I mean, Victoria did it. Like, we've heard people on the show trying to tear her down for being a model as her only function. And she's like, I'm doing it now, and I know that I have a time limit on this, so I'm going to do it as much as I can, and we'll see what happens afterward. I really appreciated the knowing that something else is out there and not being too caught up in what it is at the moment.
I also think it's really cool. She is not, like, just an...
oh, yeah.
She's not just, like, an Instagram model or, like, a current fashion model.
Yeah.
She's done stuff for medication. She's done a Sonic ad. Like, she is very much a working model.
Yeah.
And it's not just these, like, glamorous runway things. It's like, if you haven't seen these, you can Google Hannah Ann and search Sonic, and you can see her Sonic ad. Like, yeah. And she's on a sunglass poster board in, like, a Walgreens or something. It's great. Like, she's a working model. It was really cool.
No,
but then she does clam up, and
she starts with this weird
kind of glazes
sentence. She doesn't want to stay in the shallows because that's where you catch minnows. So she wants to go deep.
I thought she said meadows.
It did sound like that.
So confused.
It sounds like she's trying. I know what she's trying to say. She wants to have a deep, intimate, emotional connection because that's where the great stuff happens. You go deep, you catch big fish. You stay shallow, you catch minnows. I get what she's trying to say, but she kind of flubs it, and all of a sudden it's like she locks into pageant model mode where the answers start coming off very polished, very canned, and very superficial, which is interesting because she just said that she wanted to be a deep person. And Peter is looking for connection, and he's not seeing it.
Now, this is when she says something right before he gets up. And this line really struck me. And from a professional perspective, like, this is indicative of her not being quite ready for a full commitment because she doesn't seem to be a full, complete person. So let me say the line. And that's not a judgment. I'm just basing it off of this line. So she said, your qualities and what you possess is like what I've been raised to have wanted. So basically saying that the qualities that he has is what her parents told her she should want in a partner.
Ooh, good catch. I did not catch that.
So instead of saying, you have the qualities I want in a partner, which is a very sense of self statement, she's saying you have the qualities that I was raised to want. Which, again, not a bad thing.
No.
It's just that phrasing, it sounds like she could still be maybe living with her parents, or it's just a more childlike. And I'm not calling her a child. I actually think she's incredibly mature and a wonderful young lady. That line was so, like, startling to me.
That line makes me want to look her in the eye and go, what do you want in a partner?
Exactly.
Like, if you could just build a bear, like, partner,
right.
What would this person look like? Does it look like me? Great. Like,
right, and are those the same thing?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we are raised with certain values or ideas, especially if somebody is raised with a religious bent. You know, and sometimes we grow up to not want what our parents told us that we thought we wanted.
Yeah, and so I wrote down a couple of the notes about this.
And that's when he gets up, like, right after that.
Yeah, he's annoyed because he's trying to find a connection, and it's not there because she's all of a sudden very responsive but unresponsive at the same time. And this reminds me of Hannah B a lot because pageants modeling give you not a ton of life experience. However, it will put you a certain distance on the show pretty easily because you make great impressions.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, at the point where you start having an emotional connection, that's where the issues start to come up. And it happened for Hannah B, and I think it's happening for Hannah Ann now. And I think I told you at this point, I'm like, I would see her as the Bachelorette in a couple of years if things don't go well. Like, I would be interested to see how she plays out in the franchise in general.
So at this point, let's see.
So Peter gives her the rose.
Well, because she starts crying.
Okay, I have a note about this. This is my thing. So we've been talking a lot about crying to get the rose or like trauma for currency. It's been a problem of the franchise and always has been. So he gives her the rose and says they had a breakthrough. And I write down, but we didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they talked for probably another 2 hours that we didn't get to see. Like that wasn't shown in the episode.
And if they didn't, I don't know what to say.
Right. So for me, I wrote, it's hard to get past the crying to a rose play that the show has if we don't actually see what the connection is. So if he says we had a breakthrough, we connected, that's why I want to give you the rose. We didn't see it. So either the crying thing really works on Peter, which
I kind of think it's not.
I don't want to think it, and a lot of things I don't want to think are also true. So we'll see. If they had a connection, I would have loved to have seen it. But that was interesting. And then
so that's the end of that date. So we cut back to the hotel. There are 2 date cards at the door. The first one is a group date. It is Sydney, Natasha, Kelsey, Victoria, Madison, Tammy, Kelley, and McKenna. And in Spanish, it says lights, camera, action. And then the second date card is, Victoria P was still there at this point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Victoria P was on the group date card. The second date card is for Victoria F. And that says, I feel like we didn't get a fair shot.
So this is her second one-on-one in a row. And I don't agree with I don't think we got a fair shot. Because they had a great shot, and then she's the one who torpedoed the date.
I mean, as much as I don't like her, I'm going to go ahead and say the production having her see any sort of X on the date is enough. Like, if we liked her more, we would be happy that she got a second date. Because that would fluster anyone.
Yeah, I wrote down some stuff about how ABC and Warner Brothers keeps casting people who bring a really negative energy on the show, and that's really problematic, and then they keep keeping them around, and it's really showcasing a terrible part of our society. And
so McKenna starts to melt at this point.
Yeah,
and
she does.
Honestly, I understand why. Because at this point, if you haven't gotten a one-on-one date at all, you know that, he's just not that into you. And it sucks. It's you're realizing passively that the lead is not interested. And it's like, I'm going to go home. Either this week or next week. There's no chance that in a week and a half, he's going to be coming to my hometown. So, fuck.
In the 3 hours you may get to actually see this person?
Right, exactly.
With 4 other people trying to get his time and attention?
So Kelsey is consoling McKenna at this point, which is really nice. Kelsey has had such an interesting arc this season. I'd say one of the most fascinating and complex women that I've seen watch go through the process. It's great. Yeah. So the group date is a telenovela date, which actually seems super fun. I liked this date. It was fun.
Yeah, it was, telenovelas or Spanish soap operas. They're incredibly over the top and overly dramatic, and
it was really enjoyable.
So each person plays their different characters. Tammy says something interesting that I wanted to write down. So Tammy has threatened arson in the past of the show. She has been pretty aggressive in the pillow fight lingerie.
Threatened arson.
I know she did. She literally threatened arson. I don't care if it was a joke. Those are the actual words she used.
No, she did. She did.
She has been pretty brutal in the pillow fight competition. she's gone out of her way to be a little violent in words she's used. And she says that she is such a nice person that she needs to embody her character on the show and stab anyone who's in her way.
Granted, yes, she was partially being in character. It was just very funny and ironic to hear kind of like the person who has been so mean to other people be like, I'm so nice, I have to really act to be rude.
Yeah.
So the date is fun. Kelley is the grandma, which was the clear standout of the date. She has this great ITM where she says GILF, which is, in real life, that's grandma I'd like to fuck. But she says grandma I'd like to fantasy suite with. She really takes it in jest, whereas a lot of the women may be like, I got cast as the grandma, he doesn't like me, I have to wear this muumuu, and she went for it.
The difference between Kelley and McKenna is the sexy maid, who's always around and turns out is the real love interest the entire time of the character Peter plays. And yet she's pouting in real life kind of the entire time, and then Kelley's just rocking it as a grandma. And I see the difference between the two of them and how they showed up in this as very drastic.
So then we cut to the evening portion of the date, and
we get a quick cut of Natasha saying she can't wait for no drama. And then we wrote down, every time someone says that, there's a guarantee that there will be drama immediately.
Which is fantastic editing.
Yeah.
Again, seriously, give an Emmy to these editors.
Absolutely.
They have so much content to use, and the way that the show is edited together to take us as viewers all together on this journey is just fucking epic. Really epic.
They love, it's a cocktail party, they're talking around. I wrote down, Kelsey has come really, really far because her ability to access her emotions and her emotional depth. And as I talked about on last week's episode of Wright Reasons, Peter's matching these ladies at their emotional ability and the way that they speak about their emotions. He's matching their energy. And as Kelsey has progressed from Champagne Gate to now, she has grounded in who she is, and Peter's responding to it. It's really cool to see.
I will say, in their interaction, there was something that she said that I was really happy for her that she was experiencing, and it made me really sad that she clearly had not experienced it before.
Oh, yeah.
She talks about, she says that she's over the moon that Peter accepts all of her. And I'm so glad that she is over the moon, and that is wonderful. And go Peter, and that's their connection is clear and evident. It's so sad to me that clearly there has not been someone or many people who has accepted or who have accepted all of her.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just, and the therapist in me is going to come out for a minute, but I really think that all of us can take a look at, am I accepting the people in my life that I love? Again, not necessarily in love, just love. Do I accept them, all of their parts? The good, the bad, the in-between, the boring. Do I fully, and do I let them know that? Yeah. And I think that was, that stuck out to me so much as if I were Kelsey's friend in real life, I would want her to know that I accepted all of her.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, so that just stuck out to me. And then we cut over to Victoria P., which is an incredible conversation.
So let's just recap real quick. Last week, Aliyah went home. Aliyah?
That was 2 weeks ago.
No, it was last week, I think.
It was?
Because
I don't remember. It's all blending together.
Victoria P. lied to Peter about her knowing Aliyah.
Yeah, but whatever.
And then she gaslit him and stormed off. And when he started questioning her, she became incredibly reactive and defensive and started becoming almost aggressive towards him because she couldn't really answer a question that he wanted to know the answer to. We haven't really seen them interact since then. That's why I mentioned this.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. Because we did not watch that in Chicago.
Yeah, fair enough. So she sits down next to him and then crawls into his lap, which is strange. And then immediately brings up Aliyah, because they haven't really had a chance to talk since then. And you can see Peter withdraw. He doesn't really want to talk about it. It reminds him immediately of how she responded to him. And he's just kind of but I want to talk to you. And she's like, but love on me. I'm going to crawl on you. I'm kissing your hand. And he's like, oh, but I need to get some stuff out with you and talk.
She did acknowledge that her love language is physical touch, and my love language is also physical touch. So I understand wanting to be close after not having time with somebody. However, that was like in his bubble.
That was like up in his business. She crawled onto him. I'm uncomfortable now. I couldn't imagine how Peter was trying to ask her questions.
Do you want to talk now?
Christ. So they're talking. So she voluntarily brings up the lying she did.
Which what? Why? Why? If you are truly trying to move past that, why bring it up?
But is she truly trying to get past it, or is she trying to cement her version of reality with Peter?
Yeah, probably that.
That's what I think. So she lies basically about what was going on and says that it was her truth and she just needed to speak it. And you see him just heavy sigh. He's like, oh, God.
And he his eyes check out.
I love this about Peter. He cannot lie to save his goddamn life. And anytime he's upset, you see it immediately on his face. So he doesn't want to be around her, and she's picking up that he's not receiving what she's doing. So she begins kissing his hand and
it's
wrist.
This weird
it's weird. And she's trying to
It was distracting me. I had to rewind the conversation and re-listen to what she said because I was watching her kiss his hand.
So he tells her, we've obviously had this time together, I'd like you, I really enjoyed our date together, blah, blah, blah. He says, I think that you are more confident in our relationship than I am. And she loses it.
Well, yeah, so...
She says, I don't know what that means.
She says, I'm scared. What are you trying to say? Peter, I don't know. I don't know what that just meant. And then he tries to talk. She interrupts him. And so let's role play it. So you try to talk after I say that line, okay?
Okay.
I'm scared. What are you trying to say? Peter, I don't know. I don't know what that just meant. Are you saying that you don't want me to be here?
Well, I wanted to
are you saying... And she's asking him a question, and then he tries to respond, and she's like, ah!
And so this is the thing, and this is why we talked a lot about gaslighting on Luke P's season with Hannah Brown. The Luke P season, who's Hannah Brown's the actual Bachelorette. This is what happens when someone who's trying to gaslight somebody starts running out of things to do. They are just trying to remove what the other person's saying and insert what they want them to think the entire time.
Yeah.
She's making him defensive.
So finally, Peter says, I just don't think I see you as my wife, and I'm sorry about that.
And she says, I'm worried for you.
First she says, I know I've been nothing but vulnerable and real with you. I told you I was falling in love with you. As though
he owes her something.
He owes her something because she did those things, which is so indicative of how she operates. Now, I understand from a trauma perspective, knowing her past.
Yep.
There is a lot there that I really want to, I empathize with.
Oh, totally.
She has a lot of trauma and has clearly just not finished doing, we're never really finished, but she has a lot of personal work that she can continue to do to heal from that.
Yeah.
I'm not addressing her character in any way, but this behavior is so indicative of an unhealthy relationship person.
Yeah. My summary of this whole thing was just understand that you fucking lied, got caught, and now he doesn't like you. So she sort of walks out. We see him, which was a cut earlier where she's leaving, and he's like, Victoria, wait! And it makes it look like she's voluntarily leaving and not being sent home. But it turns out it's not what's happening.
And she says, this is the last conversation we're going to have. This is not love. And that really sucks. And I looked at Kyle and I was like, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
No one said it was love.
So he gives her the high school breakup line, which is my favorite one of all the breakup lines that he gives.
I hate this. Wait, are you being sarcastic?
A little,
Okay,
at the same time, because of the way she's treated him, like, this, to me, plays fine.
Sure.
You'll make someone very happy someday. It's dismissive, but she's also been pretty rude to him. It's
so dismissive. I understand it in this perspective, but he said it twice during the episode, which tells me that
it's his go-to.
That's his thing, and that wasn't just for her.
Yeah.
What I don't like about it is being the person that is being broken up with.
Yeah.
So if let's say you're breaking up with me.
Oh, no.
Right? And and I'm sad because you're breaking up with me, right? Because I'm going to miss you.
Right.
So by you saying you're going to make someone else happy someday, I don't care. I know I'll make someone else happy. I wanted to be with you.
Yep.
This is about me.
Yep.
Why, A, it's not about somebody else. B, why is making somebody else happy the positive? What about my happiness? How about I think you'll be happier with someone else?
Yeah.
Because at least that's about me.
This would be better.
But basically, that line is saying, like, your happiness doesn't really matter, but, like, you're going to make someone else super fucking happy.
Well, your happiness doesn't matter, but you can provide happiness to someone else. I
don't like it. It's so gross. And this is cross-gender. Like, I've heard women say this to women. I've heard women say this to men, and men to men, and men to men. Like,
Okay.
Has anyone ever been given that line? I have. Have you ever?
Nope.
You've given it? Have
no.
you told someone that?
No.
Good. We were going to have to have a conversation.
Okay. See, this is why I'm not as emotionally attached to this part of the conversation. Anyway, one final thing about Victoria P., and this is my favorite part, and I was pretty happy about this. She's in the car on the way home, very indignant, very upset.
She is.
And she says, I've been true to what I am. And I wrote down, that's true, because she's been patronizing, manipulative, and antagonistic.
That's so sad.
It is sad. And she also told the truth about herself because she's been doing those things. So we cut to a commercial. We come back to the group of the rest of the contestants. And Tammy is attacking McKenna for what I can find is no reason. And I wrote down nothing like watching a 24-year-old call 22-year-old immature.
Yeah, and
that was fun.
While this is happening, Madison and Peter are finally getting some one-on-one time. At this point, we have barely seen them together since their date.
The note thing.
Yeah, with the script.
That was cute.
He wrote out this little, like, telenovela thing from the date. We didn't even get to see Madison on the telenovela date.
Yeah, we don't know what character she was.
Now, my theory is, based on seeing so many other seasons, is that we're going to get so much of Madison in the last, 4 or 5 episodes.
They're saving her.
That they're saving her and not showing us as much. It's what happened with Becca on Ari's season.
Yep.
And I really think that that's what's going on. But it's really cute. It's like this back and forth. They kiss. And while the dialogue is going on, they're outside. And so there's these two kind of scenes that we're flipping back and forth.
Oh, yeah. Super adorable on the steps outside, making out and being flirty. Then inside, Kelsey has now come to McKenna's aid and is like, Tammy, why are you, calm down. You're freaking out. And Tammy is incredibly rude and dismissive to her. And then so this is my thing with Tammy, is that she says she's nice, but then acts differently than what she says.
Tammy?
Yeah. And she's bullying people, and I use that word intentionally because the words she uses are designed to pick at people's insecurities, and she uses what she's insecure about to do that. And I think she's insecure about money and responsibility and value in life because that's what she tries to get under the skin about the girls around.
And aren't we all a little insecure about those things?
She goes to McKenna. The 24-year-old goes to the 22-year-old and says, do you have any responsibilities outside of this?
And then, are you even ready for marriage? What? It's so patronizing. So McKenna says to her, say what you want to say, Tammy. I'm here for the right reasons.
Thanks, McKenna.
Say what you want to say. She does this thing where she kind of repeats like the first thing that she says at the end, which is like kind of fun. It's like a character that's being written. And her voice is cracking, like she's gonna cry, which is actually how I used to experience anger. When I was younger. That is how I experienced anger. I was so uncomfortable being angry that sadness would come up, because we know that anger is a secondary emotion and underneath anger is usually something else. And many people are really good at using anger to mask their sadness. I was not one of those people, and McKenna is not either, which is a wonderful thing, McKenna. Yeah. So I loved seeing this, not because McKenna was being attacked. I did not like that part. But I liked that McKenna was standing up for herself, even though it was really uncomfortable for her. And Tammy she says and does the opposite, and states that she's not trying to, like, quote, come after her, when she's literally coming after her.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And Natasha nails it on the fucking head in her ITM. She says, Tammy seems more concerned about getting rid of people who aren't, quote unquote, ready versus moving her relationship with Peter forward.
Yeah, that was spot on. McKenna leaves because she's tired of being, verbally attacked.
Oh, hey,
Shocking.
We got our first thumbs down.
Oh. I always challenge people who give the thumbs down to tell us why. I'm always curious.
Yeah, not because, like, it's not okay. You can not like it. We're just curious.
Oh, yeah, no. What's one of those things that, like,
we like to learn from it.
Oh,
like, is it our lighting
opinions
today because we have a flashlight on our phone, or did we say something you didn't like? We want to know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got their opinions. I'm just curious as to what they are. Anyway.
Jessica in the chat said something I think is really important.
Yeah, hold this for 1 second.
Yeah. She said, quote, also, quote, making them happy, quote, is another odd line. Nobody should make you happy. You make choices for your own happiness. Bingo. Yes. Preach it.
Well said.
Jessica.
So, McKenna leaves Tammy's verbal abuse room.
Oh, wait. Then McKenna says to her, am I going to be another girl you bring up to him?
It's a great question.
And Tammy says, you can believe me if you don't want. I'm going to say that again. Because this was the exact quote. We had to rewind it because I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. She said, you can believe me if you don't want.
Combined with lingering
okay,
and everything else in this season, this has been a difficult vocabulary season of The Bachelor.
So Maddie and Peter are kissing outside, and they start to hear
the
shouting between Tammy and McKenna.
Yep.
And he comes back up.
McKenna leaves, and they run into each other, like in the hallway or something.
They have time together.
And she tells him directly what happened. Like, Tammy came after me. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm here for you. And he comforts her and tells her to not let Tammy get under her skin. And he's never seen anything wrong with McKenna, and he's really confused. And then the group date, Rose goes to Madison because she's the best on this date. That's nice. We get a quick commercial, and then it's one-on-one with Victoria.
So we can kind of, like, fast forward basically through, like, this horse portion. Nothing really of content happens during that.
No, I just noted that she always finds a way to make herself the victim, because they sit down and she's immediately crying and weeping and making a strange voice.
Fun of McKenna for.
All of the things she does. I wrote down she's a person who's happy to criticize people, but then also does the things she criticizes for. And she's not sure if she likes him, and Pete's, like, very confused, which I was confused the whole time. And it seemed very jarring because, like, we're going to go on a date, and she's like, but I'm sad.
And he reassures her at the very beginning. He says, like, the reason why I wanted to take you on another one-on-one is because I want to make sure that this is what I think it is. It's not because I'm doubting anything.
Well, the way he said that to her, I thought he was more upset than he was. I was actually kind of excited because she's like, I don't know why I'm on a second one-on-one, and I'm worried. And he's like, do you know why I invited you on this? And she's like, no. He's like, because I like you. Yeah. Like, I want to be... Do you not understand?
And then her response to that is, yeah, is it what you think it is? Or, like, what are you thinking? And he says, I think for me, yes, it is. But honestly, and then he sighs, and he says, I was very thrown off and caught off guard by kind of how you were talking today. And it hurt my confidence a little. Referencing their conversation on this, like, truck thing.
Yeah,
like
sitting in the bed of a flatbed
thing.
or something in the middle of a field with the horses. I don't know.
And then he says to her, "It made me sad." And I was honestly just grateful to hear a real emotion being named.
He didn't feel like anything. He felt sad.
Yeah.
So this is really strange because she is so closed off. My notes from this are she doesn't want to be in the show. Or she wants to be on the show. She does not want to be the winner. She is happier on group dates because she can just blend in. But on one-on-ones, she actually has to show interest to get through. And God, watching everything she does, listening to how she talks, I don't think that she wants to be with him. However, she wants to be on the show.
I don't think she wants to be with anybody right now. Like, she is not giving off energy of, I want to be in a committed relationship.
So, she says something accurate. She says, maybe you'd be happier with someone who can open up. Yeah!
Hallie, I agree completely. Hallie in the chat says, I felt like Victoria F. was trying to get Peter to send her home through the entire date. 100%.
Yep. And we follow through the conversation where he's asking for reassurance. Like, hey, like, are you blah, blah, blah? And she's not answering, and he's like, I'm trying to talk to you. And she snaps at him and says, yeah, okay, Peter, I get it.
And then he
says, walks off.
Before she walks off, he says, do you want to be here? And she says, yes, I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be, in a very rude way. And his response is, I wasn't trying to insult you. And she goes, It is so, it's the word I'm looking for.
Disrespectful?
That's not the word that I was looking. It's like, it's going to come to me in like 5 minutes.
What does the word describe?
Like angry, feisty, loud, hurtful.
Short.
No. I'll remember it.
All
It's on the tip of my tongue.
I'm looking forward to 5 minutes from now. You shout out a word.
I know. It's just hostile. It's so hostile.
Well, yeah, that's good. Good word. In the answer, I read down their answers right in front of him. He can't see it.
Yeah,
she doesn't want to be with you, bro.
Yeah.
Let it go.
So she's talking with a producer. He's talking with a producer. And she's saying, I'm frustrated with myself. Because yes, Hallie, also condescending.
For real.
She said, I'm frustrated with myself because I can't give him an honest answer. And I'm taking my frustration out on him. And he's saying to the producer, what else can I do right now? I'm trying so hard. What else can I say? And here's the thing. He can't.
Yeah, nothing, bro.
She is like, there is something about the way that he feels about her and what he feels when he is with her that he can't see what's happening.
Yeah.
He's trying to convince her to like him and to want to be with him. She doesn't. But her behavior at some moments says that she does. And so
on the group dates, when she has to just get attention when she wants to, but when she is the center of attention, she doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, it was really uncomfortable. So Peter's very confused.
I wrote down, how dare she mock McKenna when she cries so goddamn much.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with crying. In fact, cry, emotionally sweat. Just don't make fun of other people for doing it.
And then do it.
Yeah. So Victoria returns to the table and she says, I'm sorry. You don't deserve it. You know I like you and I want this to continue. I don't know why I'm acting like this. And then this is very indicative. She says, I wish I got to a point where I own my issues so that you don't have to deal with them. Do you know what I mean? Which, yes, that is actually probably one of the healthiest things that she has said.
Astute.
And then Peter responds with probably one of the most unhealthy things that he has said, which is, I do, meaning he does understand, but I don't mind dealing with them right now. And so that response is bordering on like this people-pleasing, codependent behavior, and
it's an issue.
It's an issue. And it's this balance of, you know, stereotypically, a lot of people who lean towards being codependent find people who are narcissistic. It's like a classic psychological pairing. And by no means am I saying Victoria's narcissistic or that Peter is codependent.
No armchair diagnoses here.
No.
Diagnoses?
Also, those are not like diagnoses.
Right.
except for narcissistic personality disorder, which like is not what's happening here. But those characteristics were coming out a little bit, and that dynamic is just like red flag, red flag, red flag. So I wanted to jump through the television at this point and be like, stop, break it up.
So and on that note, I write down, for some reason, Peter doesn't see the massive red flags here and picks the rose up. He even says that nobody has put him through this much grief on the show.
Which is literally like what Hannah said to Luke P.
Why would you want to bring someone who has caused you grief in which you are in a group dating competition where they're supposed to be presenting themselves to you as great partners? She has negated your positivity and happiness on the show actively, and you call it out like it's a joke. So he's like, "Nah, you want this rose? You gave me all this grief. Here's the rose. Do you want it?" And she goes, "Of course," which is not something you say when you were talking to producers earlier today about going home.
Not of course.
No, at all.
Ugh.
And
he does acknowledge that it was the first real rose that he had doubt giving away. I just
do it.
It makes me want to bang my head against this microphone.
Wait, you mean this does, and not what's about to happen after the commercial? The 2-on-1? That's not even a 2-on-1. It was a 2-on-1 conversation before the cocktail party.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind this.
I was pretty okay with it, to be honest.
It.
Although I really wanted to get one of I think it was Ashley I who got left behind from a helicopter. I really wanted the sweeping. Yeah. I love when the 2-on-1 dates end.
Wait, you didn't even watch Crystal's season. How do you know that?
It also happened because we watched a clip of it because it happened to David.
Oh.
After Jordan with Hannah.
Oh yeah, David Ravitz.
Becca.
With Becca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when they do it's horrible to do to somebody. Like, it makes them look just miserable and like pathetic, but what they do, and they've done it a couple of times, is it'll be a 2-on-1, and they'll be somewhere distant, like a cabana in the middle of the desert, naturally. And whoever gets picked leaves with the lead in a helicopter, and you get this sweeping view
a boat
of the person just sitting by themselves off in the distance.
So I want to get through, I don't know about you guys listening, I want to get through this 2-on-1 as fast as possible so that we can get to the next episode.
Summarize what happens really quick. Okay, so it's Tammy versus McKenna, and they argue before Peter talks to them. Peter comes in, talks.
Pause. That is something, so I found out, and this is like fun behind the scenes tea, when there is a 2-on-1 situation, the lead does not know when they get there. They have no idea when
so they let them
arrive,
sit there for a while?
So they can let them sit there for up to 3 hours.
Brutal.
So when we see like them finally be like, you know what, I'm going to say something to you, that could have been 2.5 hours of sitting in silence. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I know.
So
sorry, continue.
They argue. They argue and stuff. The cool thing about the argument is that McKenna's getting upset and her Canadian side begins to come out. Her boots start showing up in her vocabulary, and she starts getting pretty tough, actually, which is great. Then Peter shows up. Tammy talks to him first. She says her stuff. Then McKenna talks to him. She says her stuff. They come back together. They bicker for a little while, and then there's just... They're talking. We get an ITM from Tammy saying, "No little girl with blonde hair from Canada is going to stop me." Which, that's just a whole can of worms in and of itself, because the little girl is 2 years younger than she is, and hair color means nothing. So, Tammy, McKenna, they are after the date, they're waiting for Peter to make a decision, and McKenna looks over and says, "You are nothing to me," because they're bickering back and forth. And Tammy gets this glazed over look on her face and says, "I am everything." And in that moment, my mind went to another place, which was the Avengers franchise, in which Thanos says, "I am inevitable," in the same tone and manner of Tammy saying, "I am everything." It's this self-assured, weird way of saying something, and it's the same. That I am an inevitable thing. And guess what? They both fail their ultimate spoilers in the Avengers franchise. Thanos doesn't get what he wants. Neither does Tammy. They both go home. Well, Thanos evaporated, but Tammy goes home.
Thank you for the Marvel crossover with The Bachelor.
And in the most brutal way possible, too, Peter sits down, he says, "I talked to you both. McKenna, I believe you.
Yeah, or I trust you.
I trust what you say. Which means that he actively doesn't believe or trust the other person, which is pretty awesome to be that direct. And so that happens, and then she leaves, and Philly special, be nicer to yourself.
Yeah. Hi to CCC. Thanks for joining in. I'm so glad you enjoy it. So Tammy goes home. I was so glad
I was
that
pretty
she
happy.
Went home.
Kelsey was so happy when McKenna walks back in. She gives her a huge hug and says how proud she is of her. That's great.
Kelley says that she was proud of her. Everybody seems to be very proud of McKenna when she returns. And Tammy is in the car on the way home, and she says, and I want to unpack this line for a second. Yeah. So she says, I'm really disappointed. I guess what he wants is a trophy wife. I'm not that, and I'm not going to change for a guy. Okay, so two major issues with this. Number one is Tammy clearly has a very low self-esteem. Because even if Peter wanted a trophy wife, which is the other problematic part of this that we're going to explain,
right?
Why can't she be a trophy? Like, I don't consider myself a trophy wife to you. However, if you made a joke and said, like, my trophy wife, I'd be like, yeah, I'm super, like, I would just, right? Like, so the fact that she views herself as being less than in that way, made me sad. I also, nobody asked her to change, right? So she said, I'm not going to change for a guy. No one asked her to change.
No.
Just don't be mean to other people.
You'd think
if that is changing, and if she's not willing to change that, I don't know how the relationships are going to go. The other issue with that line is this whole concept of a trophy wife in general, right? The fact that she thinks after getting to know Peter, and I think that we can all agree on this, and please let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with this. Peter is looking for much more than what our society has put behind the meaning of what a trophy wife is, right?
He's looking for a strong partner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, and some of his decisions may be a little odd along the way because of the container of the show. Yeah. But in no way is he looking for this, like, just silent, physically beautiful thing. Like, he wants an active partner.
Well, it was part of, even on Hannah B's season, he talked to her several times on their date time together where he's like, I find it so amazing how you, like, walked into the room and set us all straight. He wants someone who can advocate for themselves, who doesn't necessarily need him, but also wants to spend time around him. I still think that he's modeling his decisions off of what he found that he was very attracted to with Hannah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that his relationship with Hannah really changed a lot for him.
Yeah.
Now,
are you going to do the feelings thing that Tammy says? Are you going to touch on that?
No. What? I didn't write that down.
Where she's in the car, just angry spouting at the camera and the producer, and says, don't lead with your feelings.
Oh. I think I blacked it out.
Yeah. We can even move on from that, because that was bad in and of itself.
So bad. Now, I know a lot of people in the comments and a lot of people on Twitter and everywhere were really upset that Peter sent McKenna home at the rose ceremony, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I truly think production asked him to please send one person home and then go to the rose ceremony. And we don't know, and I want to give Peter the benefit of the doubt here, we don't know that he knew he was going to send McKenna home. He may have, and, like, that kind of sucks. I get it from a TV perspective.
Yeah.
It sucks for McKenna. And that, like, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for that. But we also don't know if he had made that decision yet.
Yeah.
Right? Because if he had, he could have just said, you know what, after this conversation, I can cancel the cocktail party now. I know what I'm going to do. But he didn't. So perhaps he thought maybe, I don't know, who else would have gone home, though?
Well, I think that it's the format of the show is what's happening. So one leaves from the 2-on-1, then it goes to the rose ceremony. And maybe he needed some time in between to think about it. I don't know. I don't really fault him for sending home McKenna. I think that she fell victim to the format. more than anything else, because I don't think that he would be. He's not like a vindictive person. He wouldn't have intentionally done this. Like, I think that it's just the way the show broke down that she made it through the 2-on-1 only to go home immediately afterwards. I think that was just the way the cookie crumbles.
We've also never seen a 2-on-1 in that format, like right before a rose ceremony, right? Like, so even if it had been a 2-on-1 the day before and she had come home for one night and then they had the rose ceremony and then she went home, I think we've seen that happen before. So, in the comments, somebody mentioned and said, Peter is looking for a stay-at-home mom like his mom.
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Yeah, I don't. If you have, I don't want to use the word evidence because I feel like I'm making you prove or like asking you to prove it, but I haven't seen or heard anything that indicates that he wants that. And if he does, that's also okay. Like part of empowering women is empowering women to do what they want. And while some women want no children and some women want 8 children, there's things in between. Some women want to stay home. Some women want to work. Some want in between. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, part of feminism is about empowering women to do whatever it is that they want.
Yeah. It's
not about judging what it is. So if that is what Peter wants, which I haven't seen and I don't think that it is, okay, cool. Then find somebody who aligns with that. But if not, then hopefully find somebody who aligns with that.
Yeah. So yeah, blah blah blah. This Peter goes back to the girls and he's like, okay, let's move on from the drama and focus on our relationships. He talks to each one. Seems more distant.
Yeah, see,
with
he
Sydney.
Says he's not sure who he's sending home. Yeah. And then he says, it's gone from, is there a connection to, is this the connection?
Yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
Yes, J. Jobs, McKenna's frown face after not getting the rose. Her facial expressions, you guys, can she like...
She's also very aware of that on social media, which is hilarious.
I want her, you know those feelings charts where it's like happy, sad, embarrassed, scared, angry? I want her face to be the face on the feelings charts because... she does them so well. Yep. Heather says, I thought it was to set a precedent for Tammy's behavior, perhaps. Oh, this is about sending her home before. I don't know, but I thought maybe the rose ceremony was her time, while beforehand the shock value for Tammy. That could totally be. And CCC says, I really liked the 2-on-1 before the rose ceremony and not a whole date. Same. There's so much good stuff they have to edit out. They should adopt it to save money. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. I liked it too.
Rose ceremony.
So Victoria F, Hannah Ann, and Madison have roses.
So then Kelsey gets a rose, Natasha and Kelley get roses. That means Sydney and McKenna leave.
On top of Tammy and Victoria P going home earlier.
Yeah.
So we cut 4 women.
Fantastic. Oh. So they go to Lima, Peru, and we're going to jump onto that one next.
So let's just take a quick break. I'm going to stretch my back here. Yes, exactly. In the comments, we have a stay-at-home mom is a strong woman, a very strong woman. If she's making a good home, right? Exactly. There's no judgment about what you want to do as a woman or a man or non-binary.
And like as long as you and your partner get along and you're happy with your arrangement, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, do what works for you. Just a quick break here. We want to thank our normal sponsor, even though we're not there right now.
Stand Up New York.
Of Stand Up New York. Thank you so much for having us. If you are ever in the New York area, it is an amazing comedy club on the Upper West Side where we typically film this show. People like Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld and Jane Lynch have performed there, and it is just a fantastic club. So thank you for having us when your internet is working. And if you are here with us on YouTube watching, if you can give this video a thumbs up, we would super duper appreciate it. And if you're listening to this as the podcast, please make sure that you are subscribed on whatever platform you're listening to. So hit pause, make sure that you're subscribed, or on Spotify, it's called follow. And that way you will get a notification whenever a new episode comes out. That way if we do guest episodes, interview anybody, or a mailbag, you'll get that notification.
Yep. Episode 7. So we're recapping the second episode.
Just a quick drink of water.
Yeah, go for it. Well, you do that. I'll talk about this. So, episode 7, last night's episode. We're going to breeze through it. because there's not a lot of content.
No, it's really good.
So usually we don't like to do double recaps, but ABC, just throws random episodes out sometimes. We have to do a double recap. This time it works because there's not a lot going on in episode 7. There's some things, and we'll touch on them, obviously. I got plenty of notes here. But I remember at the end of it, I was kind of like, could we have gotten like a half-hour long supercut of what really happened? I need the abbreviated version of this instead of sitting there for 2 hours and watching it.
Yeah, it was really drawn out.
Pressure's on. Peter's going to pick the girls that are going to go to hometowns in this episode. So
we're going from 6 to 4?
Yeah, 6 to 4.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The episode starts off with Peter FaceTiming with his mom. It was actually really, really adorable. It was a nice cut of something that we typically don't see without it being like the Colton selfie vlog thing, which it looks like we're going to get next week.
Maybe. I was kind of happy they stopped, because they were doing that almost the whole season,
No, but in the preview, there's him vlogging.
Well, yeah, but Colton did the whole season. I'm glad that we haven't seen it a lot yet.
Yeah. And so right away, there's a knock on the door. The girls are all sitting in the hotel. They think it's a date card, as it usually is. But guess what? It's Peter!
Oh my god.
So Peter comes in, and I loved this. I am all about, both as a person and in my work, all about calling out the elephant in the room and acknowledging what's going on. So if I'm feeling anxious, I'm going to tell everyone around me that I'm feeling anxious so that they know what's going on. Peter comes into this room and very much shares with all of the women that he's scared and that he is doubting and has fear around them not reciprocating both feelings and a desire to be with him forever, which I also loved that distinction.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can have feelings for somebody and not want to spend your life with them.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I loved that. And that was really the only reason for his visit. It was a little weird. I was like, what? Can he bring the date card? Because then the date card came 5 minutes later.
Right, he leaves and he's like, I'll be right up in the hallway, for whoever's next. Because I'm gonna wait downstairs in the lobby for 2 hours while you get ready because you didn't know you were going on a date right now, and it was odd.
So the date card arrives.
Yeah, date card arrives, and it's a one-on-one.
With Madison!
And Victoria F. opens it. I wrote down she opened the letter like a jerk. Because remember she snapped it open all annoyed?
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. I must have been taking a note. They go on a fishing date and somewhat explore the city, more so on a fishing date. And back at the hotel, so as Peter and Madison are enjoying their date, they cut back to the hotel. And Kelsey is having a conversation with Hannah Ann, which, by the way, most unexpected friendship of the season.
All the way from Champagne Gate, and now we're here, and I cannot believe that they talk 5 times in this episode in a super nice way.
I was like, you go.
Hey, and you know what? Go. If you ever needed evidence that people can change, you saw it on national television.
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool. So we hear from Kelsey that Madison is really religious and that she doesn't think that she has shared that with Peter yet. And that she wants to make sure that Peter knows that. So a couple things. As a viewer, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've not seen anything about her religious preferences or beliefs at all.
Did any of you all know that before? When this came up, when Kelsey said that, were any of you like, oh yeah? Because I literally do not recall ever hearing anything about Madison being religious.
Well, and that is the first. So Madison has been my personal front runner the entire time. I thought that she was going to win since the first date that they went on, the first one-on-one where, she met his parents and went to the vow renewal. That's an easy in. She got the bouquet and all of them. Oh yeah, she's the one. The problem here is that she's now kept a massive, life-altering, if this is true what Kelsey's saying, life-altering decision from Peter. And it's getting, like, down to the wire. This is the stuff that you got to get out of the way earlier in the season. Because everyone's got their own belief systems, and everyone can do whatever they want, as long as you're not really hurting others. Because that is what the foundation of religion is. Don't hurt others. And
love thy neighbor.
Yeah, literally. But now you've kept it too long. This is a huge part of yourself.
Wait. CCC says that we have heard this, that she wants to be a missionary and open an orphanage. When did they say that?
I haven't gone through her social media. I just stay away from the social media of the majority of the contestants because a lot of it will have spoilers in it.
Right. So I'm talking about, like, on The Bachelor, like, on TV, not extra. She's a foster parent coordinator. Yeah. So we don't know much about Peter's religious preferences or beliefs. So we knew that he was Christian because he had that conversation with Hannah.
Right.
We also know, because Peter has been outspoken about this, that sex is incredibly important to him prior to marriage.
Something about windmills.
Stop. Seriously, though. So,
yeah.
And again, we are not here to judge either side of that decision. Both are fine.
It's just the weight behind it having not been addressed earlier.
You got to communicate it.
Like, could you imagine if it's getting ready for the hometown date, there's 6 contestants left, and one of the contestants goes to the lead and is like, by the way, I have a child, and I haven't told you about it yet.
Yeah, and listen, we as viewers cannot know if this is Madison's decision, if it was that they just did not have enough time, which, you know, this is their second one-on-one, so they did have some time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, I will say, though, the virginity thing, I was almost glad that we didn't know until now.
We find out at the end.
Yeah, but we find out in this episode.
Yeah.
The virginity aspect, I think the way that she says it is that I'm saving myself for marriage. I don't know if she said the word virgin.
Yeah. I mean, contextually, we can.
Right. Yeah. That aspect of it, I'm not mad as a viewer that we didn't know before. Because what we've seen happen with Ashley I, with Colton, is it becomes their entire identity and storyline. And it's like, can we learn anything about this person besides their choosing not to have penetrative intercourse with someone of the opposite sex? Like, right. So that part doesn't bother me as much, especially because, honestly, even until Fantasy Suite Week, like, she doesn't need to tell him that. Like, she doesn't owe him anything.
No.
However, if she is looking for what Kelsey described as, and it sounds like this was Madison's language, a spiritual leader in her home, and she references her dad, and then Madison does say that to Peter. That, in my opinion, as somebody who works with relationships, is information that needs to be shared earlier on in the process.
I would agree with you.
Again, we don't know. This is The Bachelor. There's a lot of blah, 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 blah. And that is like, I mean, she is clearly very, very, very religious. In fact, one of our viewers right now, J Job, said on a scale of 1 to 10, Madison is a 100 on the religion scale, and Peter is a 3. And yeah, that's what it seems like. I'm very afraid that we are going to have a reverse gender Luke P situation, and it's going to be handled differently because she's female. And I'm going to freak out.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult. I am concerned about that as well, because it gets really, really tricky when you start mixing belief and opinion, because it's going to be really hard. Yeah. It's going to be really difficult.
So it's just, objectively speaking, it is challenging to have person A, who is very pro sex before marriage, very sex positive, open, wants to do these things before, to explore, that he has been outspoken about it being a very important part of a relationship. And then person B is saving themselves for marriage, is incredibly religious, and doesn't want him to sleep with other people. And she knows, Madison knows, we all know about the windmill. Right. Even if it was just the windmill, which obviously it's not. He's clearly had sex with other people. This conversation needed to happen earlier.
100%. 100%. So we'll see what happens. Yes, it is frustrating.
Yeah, next week is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it'll be something else.
I agree with all of you. They both need to fit into what each other wants, and sometimes there's a mismatch. I'm hoping that they can work through it. I don't know. It's just a lot.
So we get... I really don't like when they do this to the contestants. We get an edit of someone being upset that they haven't had a one-on-one, and then they get a one-on-one. Like, spare us them complaining about it first, which this happens to Natasha. Natasha is being upset that she has not gotten a one-on-one, and then she gets a one-on-one. Which, okay. I like the two of them together.
Who?
Natasha and Peter on this date.
As friends?
Because they're friends.
Yeah. No, they're buddies.
And every single time, so their dialogue is frustrating the first time watching it through because they're like, so I'm looking for this. And she's like, I'm looking for this. And he's like, well, I'm looking for this. And she goes, well, I'm looking for this. And they're basically describing what they want and then expecting the other person to like meet them halfway. And instead the other person says what they would like. They're not compatible. They just never really have been. We've never really seen them connect. And the whole date, I don't really feel like talking about all of it, except for you get to the end of it, and at dinner, they're basically kind of like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. Like, and he tells her, like, I can't give you this rose, because I don't think that, I forget the exact dialogue behind it, but, where did I say? Oh, wait, hold on, we missed one thing. So we can talk about the Natasha date a little bit more. There's a big key that we didn't miss, or that we did write down.
Our chat is blowing up. Right now.
It is.
Continue. I'm just letting you know that you guys are amazing. So, I love all of our listeners and viewers, and even the person who gave us a thumbs down. I love you.
Madison and Peter date. They're talking. It's great. Whatever. And then he tells her he is falling in love with her. And that's the first time we've heard it on the show.
It is. Also, for the lead to tell one of the contestants, that's a really big deal.
Especially before hometowns.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
I just want to address one comment before we get to the end. So, okay, Natasha's gone. Madison gets the rose. He's falling in love with her. We're at Kelsey's one-on-one. But before we do that, I just wanted to acknowledge, so Jessica in the chat says, I don't think that someone's religion has anything to do with how much you can trust their fidelity. And I just want to acknowledge this, that I completely agree. Somebody's religious beliefs has nothing to do with whether or not they... So, okay, let me rewind. If someone chooses to be monogamous in their relationship, and they're religious, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be unfaithful.
Right.
To that person. There are many, many, many religious people who have had affairs. And non-religious people. There's really I don't know any statistics around it, but I can tell you from my practice experience, like, seeing couples.
Or just practical life experience.
No, but like I'm saying couples that have come in for recovering from infidelity, that religion has not, it's been all over the map in terms of what religion. So I agree with that. I wanted to acknowledge it.
Well, it's important to acknowledge. I mean, it's an ideology, it's a belief system, and no matter what your belief system is, you can also go against your own beliefs actively. I mean, people who abide by the majority of teachings of the Bible often violate other ones. Like, it's a personal opinion, and that's also how you go about it.
I also just want to acknowledge that it is possible to be in love or love multiple people at one time. That is a capacity of a human. Some people don't feel as though they have that capacity, and some people do. So I don't personally think that there's anything wrong with the lead saying to her, I'm falling in love with you.
Yeah.
If you are uncomfortable watching someone who you could be with build relationships with other people, don't go on The Bachelor.
Yeah.
Like,
if you can't see the person that you like dating other people when you're not, in a monogamous relationship with this person.
No, but I'm saying afterwards. So, let's say Peter ends up with, Madison. Let's say him and Madison end up together.
Right.
And I'm sorry. Let's say he ends up with Hannah Ann. So he's with Hannah Ann. They're watching it back.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I can't believe you told Madison that you were falling in love with her.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you went on The Bachelor.
Right.
Sometimes that's just part of it. It's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know he's going to get so much shit for it. And I don't read anything before we do the show because I don't want my view to be skewed by other people's opinions. I will afterwards. But I can see him getting a lot of shit for saying that last night. And I just wanted to address it. That's
fair. He's had a rough season and it's just not great. So we get to, blah, 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 they're really happy. We get to the Natasha-Peter date. They don't connect very well. CCC wrote in the chat that Natasha scared Peter off by saying she had 3 strong men at home. She didn't scare him off. They never connected. There's no scaring off that I saw on their date. She didn't say something that didn't sit well with him. He just doesn't really seem that into her. And she doesn't really seem that into him. And, yeah. Hold on.
You want to address it or no?
You can. I'm still going through the episode.
Okay, go for it.
Let's go through.
All right.
So, Natasha and him...
Wait, we're at Kelsey's one-on-one.
Am I taking my notes out of order on this? For some reason, I keep saying they go to... What's that later? I don't know.
So they're ATVing.
Right.
And then they climb up this hill. They lay on top of each other. It was very cute. They make out on a grass hill. It's great. It was a nice date. I wouldn't want to go ATVing for a date to bond because it's kind of hard to talk.
I thought that was an odd choice for this level of the show. If they're getting ready for hometowns, why did they remove their ability to talk and communicate? Right before that happens, we did get the end of the dinner portion with Natasha where he goes, I can't give you the rose, and she's like, okay. And he's like, okay. And that was the end of that. I forgot that we didn't cover the actual part of it. So they drive around, they run up a hill, and they get super out of breath and then try to have a deep conversation while they're super out of breath on this hill. And he asks her about the future and what she wants out of her future. And he actually calls her out on not answering this question earlier on. He says, I had asked you about the future, and you never really answered it. Mm-hmm. So, what do you want in the future? And she says she wants to work a couple days a week and also stay home and raise kids. And okay. And he seems to be, okay. Their connection I find is so interesting. Especially because we get to the dinner date, and they're having a great time. And we hear her say the coward excuse comment that has been played the entire season so far. That's obviously been taken completely out of context and how it was shown to us. That's the power of the editing in the show. We see the entire season so far. At one point, Kelsey's sitting across from him, and she's like, well, that's a coward thing to say. And we're like, what happened? She was just talking about some other situation and telling about her own life story. That had nothing to do with what was going on there. And they have a really great dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What? Do you want to say something?
No.
Okay. So she tells a really, really intense story about her family, about her backstory, about what's going on with her. And Peter does what he does really well. He meets her at her energy level. He communicates well. He empathizes well. He listens.
I agree. Heather in the chat says, I actually am really appreciating Kelsey. I completely agree, Heather. I have found her to be the most real and raw person on the show. I think that she definitely came off as being a bit like, oh God, she's getting really upset about this champagne bottle.
Yep.
But she really she's like a normal person.
Super normal, actually. And she's just like, I really appreciated it. And she shares about how she's putting herself first. And that's been difficult, but it's also really, really amazing. And Peter's clearly so into that. That's that inner strength that I think that he really, really searches for in a partner, of someone who can be happy with themselves and then also be a partner. And I think that's been the issue when he tries to find connection with other women on the show so far. If he doesn't see that they're happy as themselves or confident in themselves, it's not as much of a turn on for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she tells this story about her dad. And first of all, I really just send, if Kelsey, if you ever listen to this, just sending you so much love and support and compassion. There was so much here. We don't need to recap the whole story. What I really want to just point out around it is I loved the fact that she acknowledged that other people in her family had different ideas around whether or not she should, in air quotes, have a relationship with her dad. And she wanted to decide this and create this on her own. So she actually hasn't told some of the people in her family that she reconnected with her father. And it's not because she wants to keep a secret. It's not because she's being malicious. It's because she wants to figure out if she wants a relationship with her dad as an adult.
Yeah.
And who he is now, not the person who left. And that is a really hard decision to make. So I really just, the courage. Now, I do hope her mom knew this before the show aired. Because, like...
That's what I was so concerned about when I heard that.
Finding out about that through the show would suck.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated this. It's something that we actually haven't heard a lot about.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. I think the last time there was so much, like, familial discord was kind of with Dean on Rachel's season. You guys correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to read these.
Go for it. Did you want to respond to that one from earlier?
It was for you, so no.
There was what? Scroll back up to it. We'll address one comment real quick before we get to the end of the 3-on-1 date. Some of the comment says, I think Kyle has a lot of good points, but sometimes concedes to his wife. Conceding. It's a discussion. We banter. We have different opinions. We share them. Sometimes we change our minds based on others' opinions. Sometimes, when I'm presented with information that is not my original content in my brain, I will realize that what I was thinking may be off the mark, or actually what I heard is a better thing to think than what I'm thinking. And then I'll take that information and implant it in my brain. And I wouldn't call that conceding as much as learning or having discussion in which my opinion may or may not change.
And I mean, I have the same. There are plenty of times that, and perhaps maybe not on this show as much as in real life, because I've watched the show for a lot longer than Kyle has, and
which fuck.
B, like, this show is about looking through the lens of clinical psychology and healthy relationships, and between the two of us, I'm the one with the therapy license and the master's.
With the training.
So Kyle has learned a lot, obviously, and he's done work with couples for years now. And there are still things that I just know more about. There are plenty of things that Kyle knows more about. They just don't come up on the show.
Yeah.
So I just...
The show's not about cooking or video games or Marvel entertainment knowledge.
Yeah. You want to address that last one?
No.
Okay.
J Jobs, I am happy. Therefore, my life is happy. And I have an amazing partner, and she is happy with herself. So her life is happy. And we have a happy life together. Just because I make her happy does not make my life happy.
Correct.
Because my happiness is not dependent on someone else.
Ditto. Ditto.
Anyway. That's a particularly triggering phrase for me. It's the whole thing. I have a podcast called Masculinity on the Rocks where I talk a lot about this kind of stuff. Season 2 is coming out pretty soon. Anyway, tune in. It's not going to be live, though.
And thank you guys. Like, this is not to call anybody out. We're grateful for the comments and feedback. I just think it's important to address them because conceding to somebody is like...
It's not beating me.
Right.
It's not a competition.
Also, opinions are different than facts.
Or yeah.
Right? So, like, if it's like, no, she said this. Oh, okay, yeah, I must have missed that.
Oh, yeah, and sometimes I take better notes than Rachel, and sometimes she takes better notes than me, and... Yeah. I forgot, like, entire parts of the show happened. And Rachel's like, are you missing this date?
And then the same thing will happen, where Kyle will be like, did you not... Were you live during that part?
All right, so, the 3-on-1 date happens. They go
3-on-1.
So the 3-on-1. The one thing that
These dates this episode sucked.
The 3 episode. Hey, thanks, Jessica. Appreciate you listening. Season 2 soon. The one thing I love the most is the car ride to the winery, in which I'm pretty sure these 3 girls did not say a word to each other for as long as this car ride is. And it seemed kind of long, and they looked miserable.
I despise these 3-on-1 dates. Honestly, for everyone.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's a fucking shit show.
The lead doesn't like it. The 3 women end up sitting there for so long. Like, we see Kelley, like, lounging on the bench.
To be honest, power move right there.
No, but truly, like, you're sitting there for so long. Like, we watched the sky change colors. It's
like the first day. It's like the very first episode where they get out of the limos. Like, that goes on till the next morning. Like, it's insane. So, Hannah talks to Peter first. She, again, says how hard this has been on her. And... about how saying goodbye would also be hard on her. She's just talking about how difficult things have been, and it's a little confusing as to what she's talking about. What?
Hallie in our chat says, how did I go from rooting for Kelley this entire season to wanting her gone in a matter of minutes?
So Kelley doesn't handle this well. We'll get there.
Hallie, that also happened to me too. I loved Kelley, and then I was like, I
have my own opinions.
Yeah.
So, Hannah and
my opinions.
Jesus Christ. I think someone else at some point said that I acquiesce.
It's the same.
It's like the same thing.
Okay, continue.
Anyway, concede the dialogue time to me. That's a way of using it. So, Hannah Ann is telling Peter all the ways the show has been hard on her. For her, around her, to her, I don't know. And she gets emotional then and gives him a note of all of the reasons why he or she loves him. Which, okay, that was nice. It was a little high school for me.
Was it the note itself or the hearts above the eyes?
I don't know if it's a combination of the handwriting, and maybe it was my imagination, but I saw it on, like, the binder paper that she tore out. And, like, wrote a bunch of reasons and, like, handed it to a friend to hand to him in recess. Like, that's what this felt like to me. But it works. And he gives the rose to her, which blew my fucking mind.
I did not.
I was blown away. 100% blown away. And so, I have some reason Victoria says some weird shit and Kelley chills.
That was basically it. And to clarify the comments about Kelley, I like Kelley. I do. Yeah. And I agree, J Jobs in the chat said, Kelley got a bad edit on purpose. Production doesn't want her to be Bachelorette. I agree. I don't think that they want her to be Bachelorette. However, I do think that part of her rejection of, like, giving into the process of what The Bachelor is, like, and her kind of apathy around some of the stuff was why Peter sent her home.
Oh, 100%.
Which, can I?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I want Victoria to go home. If we're looking at Victoria and Kelley all day, every day, forever. For whatever reason, Peter was not experiencing clearly, like, this desire.
Yeah. So, Victoria, in her pattern of being manipulative, does this thing where she leaves Kelley just sitting there. So we don't know where Victoria goes. She just wanders off. And I call this manipulative because then Peter comes back to get Kelley. And he's like, where's Victoria? And Kelley goes, I don't know, she just walked off. Now, Peter's mind is not with Kelley. And that is a very tactful manipulation thing. And I would think that Victoria did this very intentionally. Because she knows now their time is augmented because of her actions.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So Kelley shares with Peter right away that she's been, really into him, but it's been difficult not having a second one-on-one. And she lists a bunch of really rational reasons why they work together.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome in so many ways because she's like, you and I like this. You and I like that. You and I like each other. We like these things. I like this. You like that. It's fantastic. This is a relationship. And she's not wrong at any point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she calls it fun on the show. Peter gets upset.
Peter is like, he looks triggered by this word. And I don't know if she's been using it a lot and we haven't seen it. I don't know if maybe someone in Peter's past called something fun when it was supposed to be more serious.
I think, this is what I think, and this is why Kelley goes home, in my opinion. Peter has been wanting the contestants to take this show very seriously, as he does. And Kelley had an immediate in with him before the show even started. She watched the other girls do their thing and knows that she's emotionally more mature than many of them. She also feels very successful and confident with herself. So she can look at the evidence in front of her, as a lawyer would do, and say, well, shit, I'm going to go to Final 3, if not win this thing, because I'm into this guy, he's into me, we hit it off every time, and I've got all the stuff that I think he's looking for.
Yeah, he says he wants.
And because of that, she has not taken this show as seriously, and it's been pretty evident.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she killed it with the grandma thing, and if she hadn't taken the show seriously, she wouldn't have done so well as the gilf in the telenovela. That is something I just realized when I said it. But, like, she's definitely not taking it seriously, and I think it's been eating away at Peter. I mean, she says that, why can't we just have fun and relax and enjoy a date? That gets to him almost immediately, and I think that's why she went home.
I agree with you. I think that she almost took for granted their connection, at least in his experience of it. Yeah. And it's like she got too comfortable.
Too cocky almost.
Yeah. And that's not a judgment on her.
No.
It's just observing kind of the dynamic of what happened. And he did not like that.
Yep.
And I understand it. It's a shame because she definitely seems like she'd be a great fit with him.
Totally.
And the final 4 people, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was pretty unfortunate. And honestly, after Victoria F's time with him, which we'll briefly talk about here, I thought that she was finally going to go home. I really did.
Yeah, Victoria F.
I mean, she
hits a new low in this 3-on-1 date with him. So, well, you can start this one. God, it's even hard to talk about this one.
They sit down and he tells her that he is very confused and that, like, what do you make of this? Like, and basically like asking her how she's feeling about the whole thing. And she says, quote, "If that's what you want to use our time to talk about." And then she says, "I feel like every single time we're together, you're always in a mood. I don't get it." You guys, have we ever seen Peter, like, truly in a mood?
No.
She's in a mood. She's projecting.
It was bad.
He says, which I was so proud of him, especially for a people pleaser, because, look, we're covering people pleaser.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "I'm not in a mood every time I'm with you. I'm just being honest and fair." And she says, okay. And that was basically their whole conversation. And
he says, you're giving me reasons to doubt by doing this. I feel like you always push me away, which was great to tell her, because he's standing up for himself in this case, because she began this conversation by telling him how he's feeling.
I wanted to take the wine opener that we had on the coffee table and stab my eyeballs. This was so hard to watch.
It was challenging to see. Telling someone how they're feeling, that's a Luke P move. That's very much how he would operate with Hannah. He would tell her how she was feeling, trying to tell her what she was thinking, telling her how she'd interact on the dates. That's a controlling word and a controlling way of doing something. And then guess what? She cries. Just like she used to make fun of McKenna for.
Yeah. So he comes over, he says, I don't need a dinner. I'm just going to hand out the roses.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Oh, God.
So he says to Victoria, I appreciate what we have. I know it's not been super easy between the two of us, and a lot of that has been you being honest with me, and I appreciate that. And then she thinks that he's sending her home, but he gives her the rose, which
I felt so dirty after this. Like, he's walking her to the car, and I'm like, fuck yes. She was just bickering with him. She dug her own grave. I'm so fired up right now. And then he's like, and then I want to give you this rose. And I'm like, Peter, you had her at the car. Yeah. You could have just ended this.
The parallels between Luke P. and Victoria are very high right now. I mean, not in the sense of the religious aspect and the judgment, but the gaslighting and the creating so much issue that like Peter's getting sucked into the drama of it.
Yeah.
And there's conversation going on in our chat about how some people are saying that Peter doesn't want a strong woman. And I'm gonna disagree with that only because I think that everybody has a different definition of what strong woman means.
That's true.
And I don't think that without sitting Peter down, which I would love to do, and say, what does a strong woman mean to you?
Yeah.
And then hearing that and then being like, is he looking for that on the screen? Then we can say, Peter's not looking for a strong woman. But I think that, even my definition may be different from yours.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, everybody.
Right.
So, I get why that feedback is there. I get it. And J Jobs, thank you. I won't stab my eyeballs out. I'll try really hard over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. So the 3-on-1 date ends with Hannah Ann and Victoria getting roses, and Kelley goes home.
Which I did not see coming.
Really shocked by that.
Yeah.
So, I think I have an ending note. Like, she's acting like she's been the winner since day one. I think that ended up biting her on the ass.
Pete says that he had a friendship with Kelley, but can't see him as his wife. Which I don't know how much of that was a rationalization.
Yeah.
And how much of that... Because if that's the case, then, like...
Cool, you made the right decision.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
But we saw other things, and there was a pretty insane connection right away. So I don't do some of the things I did with my friends.
You don't?
No, can't say that I do. So we get one thing that I really, really liked. This was great to see, actually, when Hannah Ann gets the rose and Peter sends Kelley home. Hannah Ann empathizes with him right away. Like, this had to have been so hard. And
it was a tough day for you.
Yeah, this has been a tough day for you. And that's great. We're seeing a lot of emotional maturity coming out of her now that she's pushed herself a little bit outside of her comfort zone. So I appreciated that. Coming up, we find out that Madison is a virgin, and that's going to be something. I wrote down some drama. Victoria's being a jerk, ? And then I wrote down, I think he's gotten the worst season. It's been really challenging for Peter, situationally and circumstantially. And then, tinfoil hat theory. So the whole season we've seen a clip of Peter's mom saying, bring her home, don't let this one go. And we're like, who's that going to be? I always kind of assumed it was going to be Madison because that's the only one that she's met so far, right? Unless he meets, like, the other girls that go meet his parents at some point. But then we see more of that clip at the very end. She says, God has placed her there for you. Don't let her go. Bring her home. So we had not seen the whole clip before, but now we're seeing more of it. The phrasing of God placed her there, I think that's tricking the viewers based on what we've learned in this episode about Madison's religious preferences and belief systems. I think that's a trick to make it think that it's her, but I think it's someone else. I think that's an editing trick, and I don't think the mom is talking about Madison. Tinfoil hat theory. I think they're messing with us.
Yeah, I'm excited to see.
Because it seems obvious, right? But I don't think it is.
I'm excited to see.
Plus all the drama in the end. I don't know.
I will say I didn't like Kelley in the car on the way out talks about how the girls left are babies, and she could have been talking about it just in the term in the way of they're so much younger than her. But the term baby can have this negative emotional connotation, and it's condescending. I didn't love that. If she's hurt, just say that. I'm hurt. You don't need to tear down the other people. But overall, I'm going to miss Kelley. I thought that she was very grounded and real, and I appreciated her bringing so much confidence and... Sorry, there was a really weird noise outside the door.
There was a weird noise outside the door. I mean, she, she'll be, I don't think she'll be missed, but she's not on the show anymore.
Yeah, she's gone.
So
that's it. So next week is hometowns, which I cannot believe. So we're going to go to Madison's hometown. We're going to go to Hannah Ann's hometown, Victoria F's hometown, and Kelsey's hometown.
Wait, aren't 3 of the women from Alabama?
No.
Where's Hannah Ann from?
I don't know.
I'll look that up. I feel like I'm getting some crossover, or I'm remembering something else.
Madison's from Alabama.
Yeah. So isn't Victoria also?
Sydney was. I don't think so.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, this has been
thank you for bearing with us.
Episode 6 and 7 recap.
Through our tech issues.
Oh, yeah. Then the Wi-Fi, and then the pivot to the thing, and yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. We love you all. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Thank you so much for being here with us. Hannah Ann is from Tennessee. Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we will see you next week. Same place, same time.
Well, not the same place.
Oh, well, no, I meant online.
Oh, yeah, we'll be on YouTube next week.
Yes. All right. Thank you all. You're the best. We will see you next week. Thanks for being here live.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, thanks for the locations, everyone. Appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Bye, guys.